We're live in 5, 4, 3. My husband mouthed the last numbers silently, giving our familiar countdown signal. The red recording light blinked on. Our 3 million subscribers were watching. And then, between cheerful banter about summer plans and our upcoming segment on family travel hacks, David looked straight into the camera and said, "Before we continue, I need to say something. I'm leaving Sarah. This is our last podcast together." The microphone picked up my gasp. My coffee mug slipped from my hand. The ceramic shattered against our custom-built studio floor. 17 years of marriage, 4 children, a podcast with millions of subscribers, all destroyed in 15 seconds of live stream. I'm Sarah Calloway, and until that moment, I was living what I thought was a picture-perfect life. David and I had built the Calloway Connection from a small hobby podcast recorded in our basement into a multimedia empire. We had the beautiful colonial house in Connecticut, 4 amazing kids, and a fan base that felt like extended family. Our podcast celebrated the messy reality of family life, the ups, the downs, the chaos of raising 4 children while building careers. We were honest about our struggles. At least, I thought we were. "Cut the feed," I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. "No," David replied calmly. "Our brand is authenticity, right? Let's be authentic." Our producer, Melissa's face went pale behind the glass partition. The chat sidebar exploded with comments. I could see them scrolling too fast to read on the monitor. "David, the kids might be watching." My hands trembled as I tried to process what was happening. "They already know. I talked to them this morning." My stomach dropped. My own children knew my marriage was over before I did. 3 million people are watching us right now," I hissed. "And that's exactly why I had to do it this way," he replied, his voice eerily calm. "You care more about them than you ever did about me." The live stream continued for another excruciating 7 minutes. David outlined how I had prioritized our audience over our marriage and how he had found someone who values me as more than content. Our producer finally cut the feed when I stood up, yanked off my microphone, and walked out. In the hallway, I collapsed against the wall. My phone was already buzzing nonstop. Screenshots of our live stream were flooding social media. #Calloway breakup was trending. My private devastation had become public entertainment. I drove home in a daze, tears blurring the familiar route. When I pulled into our driveway, David's car was gone. I found a note on the kitchen counter. "Staying at Mark's. We'll call about arrangements tomorrow." Mark, his business partner, the one who had always told David he was too good for podcasting, too good for the life we'd built together. I called my oldest, Emma, who was away at college. Her roommate answered. "She doesn't want to talk right now, Mrs. Calloway. I'm sorry." I tried my 16-year-old twins, Aiden and Olivia. Straight to voicemail. Even my youngest, 12-year-old Lucas, wouldn't answer my texts. That night, I sat alone in our podcast studio at home, surrounded by equipment we'd bought together, photographs of our family adventures that had become content, and the wall of awards we'd won for authentic family storytelling. I clicked on the video that was already approaching 10 million views. My humiliation, preserved forever online. The comments were brutal. Always knew they were fake. "She looks genuinely shocked. Maybe she is that oblivious. Team David. She's been talking over him for years." I scrolled until I found one that cut deepest. "Watch her podcast voice drop when she realizes this isn't content. This is her actual life falling apart." Was that true? Had I been performing so long, I'd forgotten how to be real? I closed my laptop and stared at my reflection in the black screen. Who was I without the podcast? Without David? Without my carefully curated image? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I paced our too-large house, replaying every moment of our marriage, searching for signs I'd missed. By morning, shock had hardened into something else. Determination. The first call came at 6:47 a.m., a tabloid offering an exclusive, then another, and another. By 8 a.m., my agent had fielded offers from 3 morning shows and a documentary team. "This could be huge, Sarah," she said. "Sympathetic divorcee blindsided on her own show? We're talking book deals, speaking tours, a podcast rebrand focused on resilience. I hung up on her. My phone pinged with a text from David. My attorney will contact yours. I'm entitled to half the podcast revenue. It was my idea, after all. I stared at those words until they blurred. His idea? I was the one who'd pitched the podcast when we were struggling financially after Lucas was born. I was the one who edited our early episodes while David slept. I was the one who built relationships with sponsors. The podcast had saved us when David lost his job in the recession. The podcast had paid for our house. The podcast had funded college accounts for our children, and now he wanted to take that too. I opened Instagram to find my DMs flooded with messages from followers. Some offered support. Others called me fake, a fraud, a content vulture who deserved what happened. One message stood out. From Melissa, our producer. He planned this. He rehearsed what he was going to say. I heard him practicing in the bathroom before we went live. I'm so sorry, Sarah. My hands shook as I read her words. This wasn't an emotional outburst. This was calculated. David had orchestrated my public humiliation for maximum impact. But why? The answer came 3 hours later when entertainment blogs published the first photos. David hand in hand with Vanessa Porter, a 28-year-old lifestyle influencer with twice our following. They looked polished, prepared, and not at all like a new couple. Sources close to the pair confirmed they've been seeing each other for months, the caption read. Porter is expected to join Calloway on his new solo venture. The final piece clicked into place. This wasn't just about leaving me. This was a business move. I called our family attorney, Marion Reeves. They're trying to force you out, she confirmed after I explained everything. By announcing it publicly, he's damaged the brand as a family podcast. He's betting you'll walk away, sell your share cheap, and he can rebrand with his new girlfriend. Can he do that? He can try. But Sarah, you own 50% of Calloway Media. He can't push you out without your consent. For the first time since the live stream, I felt a flicker of something other than shock or grief. It was anger, white-hot and clarifying. What do I do? Marion's voice hardened. You fight. And you start by going back on air. I can't, I whispered. Everyone saw me fall apart. Exactly, she said. Now let them see you rise. That night, I sat at our kitchen table with a legal pad and mapped out a plan. If David thought I would crumble, he had severely underestimated me. I hadn't built a media company by being fragile. The next morning, I drove to the studio. Melissa was waiting outside, looking anxious. I wasn't sure you'd come back, she said. Neither was I admitted. But I'm not letting him take this too. Inside, the studio felt different, emptier. The chair where David usually sat loomed like an accusation. We've had 16 sponsor calls, Melissa said. Most are pausing campaigns until they see what happens next. And what happens next? I asked. That's up to you. I stared at the red recording light, currently dark. Then I reached for the power switch. Let's find out. I went live without warning. No makeup team, no prep, no script. Just me, alone in the frame where my family used to be. Hi, I'm Sarah Calloway. If you watched our last episode, you know my husband announced he's leaving me during our live stream. What you don't know is that I found out about his affair and his plans to rebrand our podcast at the same time you did. My voice cracked, but I kept going. For 17 years, I've shared my life with you. The messy parts, the beautiful parts. I've always believed in authenticity, so here's the truth. I'm heartbroken, I'm angry, and I'm terrified, but I'm still here. I took a deep breath. The Calloway connection has always been about family. That hasn't changed. My family looks different now, but we're still connected, to each other and to you. So if you'll stay with me, I'd like to figure out what comes next, together. I ended the stream and collapsed back in my chair, exhausted. Melissa rushed in. Sarah, you need to see this. She showed me her phone. Comments were flooding in faster than she could scroll. "We're with you, Sarah. Single mom solidarity. He never deserved you." And then, a comment that made my breath catch. "Mom, call me. Please. Emma." Within hours, my impromptu broadcast had more views than David's announcement. Chud. Team Sarah was trending. 3 sponsors who had paused their campaigns called to reinstate their support. David's attorney contacted Marion that afternoon. "Mr. Calloway is willing to discuss an amicable split of the company's assets." "Ms. Calloway isn't interested in splitting anything," Marion replied. She remains CEO of Calloway Media. That evening, Emma came home from college. We sat on the porch swing where I used to rock her as a baby. "Dad told us you were the one who wanted to end things," she said quietly. "He said you were choosing the podcast over him." The cruelty of the lie stole my breath. "Emma, that's not—" "I know," she interrupted. "I saw his face when he made that announcement. He wanted to hurt you. The dad I know wouldn't do that." She leaned her head on my shoulder like she used to as a child. "The twins are confused. Lucas is angry, but we'll figure it out." "Yes," I whispered. "We will." In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt. Not just the podcast, but myself. I discovered muscles I didn't know I had, both emotional and professional. David and Vanessa launched their new lifestyle channel to mediocre reviews. Their polished perfection lacked the authenticity our audience had connected with. Their follower count stalled while ours grew. The twins came home, full of questions I answered as honestly as I could. Lucas remained at his friend's house, refusing to speak to either of us. I left his favorite snacks on the porch and texted him every night. "I love you. I'm here when you're ready." 3 weeks after the live stream, I rebranded the podcast as The Sarah Calloway Connection. Our first episode featured Emma talking candidly about how family ruptures affect children. We invited therapists, divorced parents, and blended families to share their stories. We lost some followers who'd tuned in for our picture-perfect family fantasy, but we gained more who connected with our new reality. 6 weeks in, Lucas finally came home. He stood awkwardly in the doorway, his backpack clutched to his chest like armor. "Dad's place is weird," he said. "Vanessa keeps trying to film us for her stories." I opened my arms, and after a moment's hesitation, he stepped into them. "No cameras here," I promised. "Just us." That night, all 4 of my children sat around our dining table for the first time since the live stream. The empty chair at the head of the table felt less like an absence and more like a possibility. "Mom," Aiden said suddenly, "remember how we always wanted to do that cross-country RV trip, but Dad said it would be too hard to record quality content on the road?" I nodded, remembering David's dismissal of the idea. "What if we did it now?" Olivia chimed in. "Just us. We could document the whole thing for the podcast." "A fresh start," Emma added. I looked at my children, wounded but healing, uncertain but hopeful, and saw our path forward. "Let's do it." 2 months after my husband announced he was leaving me to 3 million live viewers, we hit the road. The Starting Over Summer Tour became our most successful series ever. We recorded from national parks and roadside diners, interviewed other families rebuilding after loss, and discovered new versions of ourselves along the way. At the Grand Canyon, Lucas finally asked the question they'd all been avoiding. "Are you and Dad ever getting back together?" I sat beside him on the rim, watching the sun paint the ancient rocks gold and crimson. "No, honey, that chapter is closed." "Because of Vanessa?" "No," I said carefully. "Because sometimes people grow in different directions. Dad and I built something beautiful together, you 4, but we want different things now." He nodded, processing. "I like the podcast better now," he admitted. "It feels more real." On the last night of our tour, camped under the stars in Yellowstone, I recorded a short segment alone while the kids slept. 3 months ago, I thought my life was ending when my husband announced our separation on livestream. I was humiliated, heartbroken, and afraid. But here's what I've learned. Endings are also beginnings. I looked up at the vast spread of stars above me. Sometimes it takes having your life shattered on a public stage to realize which pieces were truly yours to begin with. My marriage ended, but my family didn't. My old podcast ended, but my voice didn't. My husband left, but I found myself. The settlement with David was finalized while we were on the road. He got the house and a one-time payout. I kept full ownership of Callaway Media, which had doubled in value since his departure. His relationship with Vanessa imploded spectacularly just before the ink dried on our divorce papers. Their content had grown increasingly desperate as their numbers declined, culminating in a staged proposal that even their remaining followers called out as fake. When we returned home, we moved into a smaller house closer to the kids' school. It felt more like us, warm, slightly chaotic, authentically imperfect. 1 year after the live stream that changed everything, I sat in our new home studio preparing to record. Emma was home from college, helping with production. The twins were handling social media. Lucas was editing B-roll footage from our latest family adventure. My phone buzzed with a text from David. "Saw your latest numbers. Impressive. Never thought you could do it without me." I smiled and set the phone aside without responding. He still didn't get it. I hadn't done it without him. I'd done it because of him. His betrayal had forced me to become the woman I was always meant to be. "We're live in 5, 4, 3. Emma gave the countdown, her fingers silently finishing 2, 1, just like her father used to. The red light blinked on. 3 million subscribers were watching. But this time, I wasn't performing for them. I was simply being myself. Hi, I'm Sarah Calloway, and this is where my story really begins.